When I was in college, whenever my friends would say, "I really need a cup of coffee," I would turn to them and say jokingly, "No, all you need is God," which technically was true, but we both knew what was meant by "I need a cup of coffee." However, this got me thinking about the word need and what it means. Very often when we say we need something, it's because we feel this void inside of us and we want to fill it. Because we feel more whole or complete, or in the case of coffee, more functional when that hole is filled, it's easy to feel like this thing is owed to us or we deserve to have it. This changes our relationship with that thing because suddenly that cup of coffee or chocolate or what have you is not a gift anymore, but something that is owed to us. Oftentimes we consume it without even being present to it because that thing has one function only, to fill that need. But we already know from Timothy and Paul's letter to the Philippians that I can do all things in him who strengthens me. So in fact, the only thing we truly do need to be whole and complete is God. And everything outside of that is a gift. Even if you're drinking that cup of coffee in order to be functional, it is still a gift from God. When we approach anything as a gift rather than a need, we experience it differently. And when we receive something as a gift, there's a tendency to appreciate it more and respect it more and handle it with more care. I'm Dr. Larissa Fedoryka, and that brings me to our segment today on coffee. Coffee has become one of those things that we've learned to consume half-consciously, oftentimes masked by massive amounts of cream and sugar, so that we can get done what needs to get done. However, one roaster shows us that by respecting the gift God has given us, understanding how to bring out the best flavor in the bean, we can encounter God each morning with gratitude in a delicious cup of coffee.
And you can see this is what green coffee looks like. This is part of creation, right? It's a gift from God. And our faculties are part of who we are, right? And we have all sorts of different faculties. And I think, something with coffee, you can develop those faculties, and it can be a greater gift. And I think when you're being hospitable to people, which was certainly seen in the Gospels, where Christ goes to people's homes, when you receive the stranger, you want to give them a good cup of coffee, or you want to give them good food. And so if you can somehow be patient and work at something, and if I can do that a little bit, that's a great thing,
Yeah, this is definitely a little bit different than beekeeping. I don't think I would be able to be in tune with nature
No.
if I'm watching the time and the...
My discipline is mostly with roasting coffee. So I make coffee and I try to be as accurate as possible with making it because I want to see how my roasted beans taste like. But my beans, I try to get beans from all over the world just to discover what they taste like, and I try to focus on farms that are organic or have a fair trade label. But also there's a micro lot, which is when a farmer has, let's say he has 100 trees, he would choose his top 40 trees that produce coffee, and they would gather them together and produce bags of coffee from them. So the quality would be higher.
So there's a lot of discrepancies between, I guess, the understanding of how much caffeine is in, say, a light roast or a medium roast or a dark roast. So can you just explain a little bit about that?
It's usually pretty even throughout the roast. So whether it's a light roast or dark roast, the caffeine is more or less the same in the bean. But what happens is that when you have a lighter roast, you use more coffee because the coffee bean is smaller. So you end up grinding more coffee. So to get that weight or that measurement, you use more coffee, and so there's more caffeine in it. You want to have a relationship with a roaster, just like you would with a baker or a butcher. And you can tell them what varieties you like, and you can purchase it locally. And it's kind of a fascinating part of the journey when you can do that. You put it through the burr grinder, and the nice thing about the burr grinder, it has an even grind to it.
So if you're weighing it in the vessel, you want to have this wet
already?
Wet
prior, for sure,
okay.
yeah. Yeah, good question. Yeah, we can see we wet it, so it just gets a paper taste out of it. Mm-hmm. There's and then it also warms it up a little bit, so it cuts that chill, especially if on a cold winter day. In summer, it's not so important, but here we go. And then when you pour, try not to touch the sides. It's hard not to, but then the big thing is to try to get agitation. And you can see the bloom kind of forming a little bit. And once you kind of see it the bloom kind of fills up, you just stop. There you go.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh, good. Cooking, and you can apply this to coffee roasting or making coffee, is generous. You know, it takes time to make something, and then there is this real self-giving in generosity in time. And so if you can make coffee, and it takes a little more time for a person to make them a good cup of coffee versus just like a one-shot Keurig or something like that, you sit down and you make them a good cup of coffee, you can be generous.